Hi, and thanks for watching another instructional video for CSCI 1300. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at our driver for our truck class. So in the driver, we are going to have a couple of really interesting things. One is that we are going to be using a menu, which we're going to pass an array of objects, and we're also going to be doing file I/O here in the driver as well, and I'm going to use a split function, which I'm not going to go into how it works, but we will be using one in order to parse the information from the file. So the first thing I'm going to note is that along with my implementation file, which has the hashtag include class.h, my driver also has the same thing. What this does is it links the implementation and the driver files to my H file. So we're referencing this every time that we compile these two files together. I'm using IOStream, string, and fstream in order to do the operations that I need to do with this particular driver, and I'm also including namespace std. So just a reminder, what does the txt file look like? Well, we have 6 pieces of data on our line. We have the make, the model, the color, the year, the gas, and the mileage of that particular vehicle. And we need to take all of this information, parse it using our split function one line at a time, and turn that into objects, and then store them into some kind of an array. So the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over the main. So let's walk from the main and then go into our menu function that will run the rest of the program. So in our main, we are going to be dealing with an array of objects. So in order to deal with an array of objects, the first thing I'm going to do is create a new truck object, which will be a blank truck. This is a blank object, which means that we called the default constructor in order to create it. And I did the same thing here with the lot. And I'm going to explain why I did this here in a second, because it's a lot easier to read if I do it this way. So let's talk about the helper variables that we're going to need in order to run the program and make it work. I've got a string for parsing called line, which I will use to grab the information from the text file one line at a time, and that's what it will represent, is all the information for one particular object at each line. The next string that I have is for the file name of the file that I'm going to parse, which is truck.txt. I have strings for the make, model, and color as well, along with the year, gas, and mileage. So I'm going to create local variables with the same names as the information that I need to store, so that it's easy for me to understand what I'm storing at any given time into my object. This is simply for readability. You could always do this without this stuff, but I did this particularly so that it would be easy to understand. So I have a size here, which is going to be working with my string temp array. So this temp array is of some size, and this size is set to 6 because we want to set this temp array to the size of the number of pieces of data on the line, which in this particular example is 6. So that's why we have a 6 here into the size. The lot size will be the size or index of our array. So inside of our array, we're going to be dealing with an index while we go and add more information into it, and we're going to use the lot size in order to index across it. I have a split value here to catch the return values from my split function to check to see if I stored everything correctly. And as long as I don't get a 0, then everything should have parsed correctly for that particular line. So because I'm using hashtag include fstream, the next thing I want to do is declare an ifstream variable called input file. I'm going to use infile to open the text file, check to see if it is open, and if that happens, then I'm going to use a while loop that incorporates a get line. The get line will take in the file stream variable and the line that I want to parse the information into temporarily. The moment that I get to the inside of my loop, the first thing I want to do is call split, because the first thing that will happen every time the top of the loop executes is that we will grab a new piece of information for each line of information in the file. So every time that the loop executes, we're going to be grabbing one of these pieces of information. So after we call split, we're going to check to see if the return value is larger than 0. If it's larger than 0, then what we can do is we can actually assign this information into our array of objects. Of course, the array is declared up here with the size of the number of things that are stored in the file. So here we're dealing with 15 trucks because we have 15 lines of information in the file. So that's our array of truck objects. So if we go down here and we check to see that the split value is what we want it to be, the first thing I'm going to do is take the local variables for make, model, color, year, gas, and mileage, and assign them from the temp array. So the temp array will have data at positions 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The first 3 are strings, so we can directly assign the information to make, model, and color. And after that, we're going to have to do a conversion because the temp box or the temp array is going to have nothing but strings in it. So temp of 3, 4, and 5, which holds the year, gas, and mileage variables, will be stored, and then it will be passed into the variables year, gas, and mileage. After we have these local variables stored with all of the information that we need to add to our object, it's time to actually do an assignment operation to that object. So I take this new object, new truck, which is a default object, it's a blank object, and I'm setting it equal to my parameterized constructor call. So I'm saying this object will equal the parameterized constructor for this particular line of information. So on line 1, I take in all the information here, I split it up into different variables, and then I assign that into some object using the parameterized constructor to set everything in bulk all at once. I could use a series of set functions, but I'm doing this because it's easier for you to understand how to assign everything in one line of information. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the array at the index of the array that we're using to keep track of the number of things that we have stored, and I'm going to add in that new object. Then what I'm going to do is increase the size of this array and keep going. After I have read the entire file, I'm going to exit the scope of my loop and close the file stream. And lastly, at the end of my main, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call my menu function with the array of objects that I've declared up here above called lot and its size. And its lot size will be determined here after the function finishes. This will be the value of 15. So now let's go up and look at our menu in the next video. That's all for now. Thanks for watching and happy coding.